Hi everyone, good afternoon. So like he said, I'm going to be talking about building the Metaverse backbone on the cloud. My name is Adora and I am a software engineer currently working Microsoft Mesh, which is going to be the backbone of the Metaverse, and it is on the cloud, so this should be interesting. I am a new author. I wrote my first book last year. That's also interesting. I'm a digital creator. I'm a digital creator. You see me posting like Instagram reels, writing stuff, creating YouTube videos, and all of that. I am launching a course pretty soon as well, and I lead/manage some communities and a lot of other things. There's many, but these are just the 3 things that I do that I want you to focus on today. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about mixed reality, the cloud, and how these 2 things are connected to, create what we know as the metaverse. But before I start talking about that, I want to quickly introduce you to my friend. Her name is Bukola. I met her 8 months ago when she started working at Microsoft, and we had a long conversation about her background before tech and before joining the company she used to work at before joining Microsoft. And I got to learn that she was somebody that studied geophysics in Unilag. And what stood out to me was, at that time when she was studying geophysics, they used to do a lot of things on the underground structure of the earth, talking about oil and gas reservoirs, trying to model 3D things that have to do with like the earth surface and a bunch of things underground as well. And it's great when you try to think about these things and you are drawing these things and you are reading these things. But she would always be thinking that if there was actually a way that I could actually experience these things, it would enhance my love for this thing I was studying, and maybe, just maybe, I would have been practicing, something geophysics or oil and gas inclined today. But she's in the tech industry, but anyway, that's a different conversation. And imagine like, as a geophysics student, being able to simulate what goes on under the earth and experience that with a bunch of your classmates. So now it's not just a thing of they told me and I'm just imagining it, and when exam comes, I'm going to write it down and I'm going to pass, I graduate and move on. But there is this kind of simulation that is an experience. And there was something that one of the early speakers said today, Dom, I don't know if you people remember, but Dom said, there's so many things you can forget. And it's actually true, because I say this thing a lot and I've heard it multiple times. You can forget what somebody said to you. You can forget what somebody said to you. You can forget what somebody did to you. You can forget something you heard or read or something. But there's this thing that stays with us, which is a feeling. You can't really, it's very hard to not forget how something made you feel, whether it was a good feeling or a bad feeling, whether it was something that made you want to, pardon my French, kill somebody, or it was something that made you, pardon another French, kiss somebody. But you can never really, it's harder to forget all those kinds of emotions than just like random things. And we've seen that creating immersive experiences are a way to help people stay in that experience for a longer time. I'm going to go away from geophysics a bit and use chemistry as another example. How many people here were science students in secondary school? How many people here in secondary school loved chemistry when they did it? If you were a science student and you said chemistry, can I see your hands up? My hand is also up. And that was because they will tell you something like, oh, I don't remember, is it noble gases react or something like that? I don't even know. But I don't even know at this point, I don't remember. But the point is, a lot of, you'll be doing chemistry theory for like 3 months, and then you do chemistry practical for like 1 week, and then it's just like, yes, they were trying to create that, but even when you want to go do the chemistry practical, right, only some people get to do it because somehow one element did not reach everybody, or there's zinc on this part of the class and there's no zinc somewhere else, all these funny things, right? And imagine if we could, especially during the pandemic, I really pity chemistry students during the pandemic. Imagine, especially during the pandemic, imagine if everyone had access to mixed reality experiences where when they're teaching about periodic tables for the first time, I could just put on a headset and see like a 3D version of the periodic table in front of me and play with it, in the sense that it feels like a game. Imagine being able to take hydrogen as an element because it's in front of me, and take oxygen and try to make water, and then it tells me, oh, you can't make water because you need, like, I don't know, 2 hydrogen and you need 1 oxygen to make water. But in that process, you learn how to do these things, and that thing stays with you because you were immersed in that experience. And that's one thing that I believe that mixed reality does, and that's also something that my friend Bukola wanted mixed reality to do for her as a geophysics student. And at that time, that didn't happen because we were not exposed to that technology. But now, moving on from me trying to introduce to you what a mixed reality experience is, and try to talk about the metaverse itself. So the metaverse is a digital space where people can interact with a computer-generated environment and other users. So I've been talking about mixed reality for like the past 5 minutes, and I've only been talking about one person having one experience, either the, you know, underground, how the earth feels like, you know, underground, or the chemistry example that I gave, where it's just one person with a headset seeing a 3D space in their own physical space and being able to interact with that 3D space. But what makes the metaverse different is that it's not just one person, it's everybody. So imagine imagine all of us having this talk in the metaverse where you were actually on your bed. You didn't have to come to Oscar at all. But somehow you have a headset that you wear that takes you to a metaverse where you see an avatar of me standing in front of you giving this presentation, and you have a seat, and you, which is in this case your avatar, goes to that seat, and you can actually greet people, gossip with people during the talk, look at me, look at my presentation, and do all of that. So that full experience that is digital is what is a metaverse experience. And now I'm going to talk about the intersection between mixed reality and, you know, the cloud, or rather, I'm going to talk about the different things that exist in the metaverse, like the different kinds of roles that can exist there. And we have VR devs, there are animators, cloud engineers, blockchain engineers, designers, content creators, and many more. I actually wrote an article about this a long time ago. So a VR dev would create that space, would create the metaverse itself. Animators exist to create some of these assets as well as working with these people. The cloud engineering bit, I will get to that in a sec because that's actually what this talk is about. Blockchain engineers, if we are in the metaverse and I want to do some kind of exchange with you, I'm not going to spend Naira in a Chinese person's metaverse, right? There has to be something that we can use as the exchange, and that's where that comes in. Designers, content creators, people that bring things into the metaverse for us to interact with and play with. But like I said, I'm only going to be focusing on the cloud engineering bit here. The metaverse is basically an internet that we can interact with. That means that the metaverse is a normal mixed reality experience that you would have solo, in addition to a real-time collaboration with other people. And what this means is that if the internet does not exist, you are not going to be able to connect with other people to share a mixed reality experience with them. What this means is that you are not going to have a metaverse. So without the internet or the cloud, even if you have the best VR devs in the same room and they design a very amazing experience, it will probably just be a solo VR experience, but you wouldn't be able to tag that as a metaverse experience because you are not collaborating in real time with other people. And I want everyone to think about the metaverse like Twitter, which is a place where you can just go and exist. On Twitter, you can function in communities, you can function in lists, you can function in groups, you can be by yourself tweeting, you can be in people's DMs, and you can be on spaces. So that's how I want you to think about the metaverse as well. But think about it like you can do this in 3D, if that makes sense. So the metaverse is basically Twitter, and an event happening in the metaverse, maybe a conference talk like this or a Burna Boy concert or something. Try to imagine it as a Twitter space, but a Twitter space happening in 3D, a Twitter space happening where you could be immersed in that experience. And as people that are building the backbone for the metaverse on the cloud, these are some things that we have to think about. And one of them is, how do we represent people digitally? Apart from doing authentication for people to come into that metaverse, it's how do I, as Adora, a dev building this thing, represent somebody like Juma, who is supposed to be a person in the metaverse? It's beyond just us starting to think about how Juma should look in the metaverse as well, thinking about Juma's avatar and other things like, okay, Juma is wearing a blue shirt now. I want to have like other things in Juma's wardrobe so that he can wear a yellow shirt tomorrow in the metaverse. Being able to represent people digitally, talking about who they are themselves and also what they have, their entitlements, their blue shirts, red shirts, and all of that stuff. Being able to persist an event state. I'm going to use this analogy with Twitter Spaces as well, which is when we're on Twitter Spaces, you can pin a tweet, right? And that's like, that sort of changes the state of that space. Or people joining the space and leaving the space, the number of people in that space, that is the state of that space currently updating. And being able to do this in the metaverse in 3D is also something that you would do as somebody that is a cloud engineer working on building this technology, which is, if somebody joins a session or a room, how do I tell everybody else or whatever? If somebody in that session goes, if I'm in that session and I go talk to you, how am I able to write code that does that, so that makes that possible? Sound for everyone as well. If we are in the metaverse and I'm talking to you, it is my job as somebody building that service to make it so that it's possible for everyone else in that room to hear that sound. And it's also my job to make sure that the farther somebody is away from, the fainter the sound should be. So it's supposed to be like it is actually a real experience. It's just that now we're dealing with like avatars, not real humans. Metaverse collaboration as well. Let's say I came to this talk late and there was a Scrabble on this table and 3 people wanted to play Scrabble because Adora is late to her talk in the metaverse. Those 3 people should be able to sit around this table, launch the Scrabble, and play it. And what that means is that there's that collaboration with those 3 people. So obviously, the state of knowing that, okay, there are 3 hands interacting with this particular object, I should be able to account for that. When the state of the Scrabble game changes, I should also be able to account for that and stuff like that. Also dealing with large-scale events. Let's say when I started, I was hosting like, a space or an event that had like 10 people, and then somehow we're growing, and the next thing, I want to be able to host like 1,000 people. I need to build something that can account for that. And exchange as well. I talked about blockchain faintly before. And this means that whether you're a back-end engineer, somebody working in DevOps, an SRE, someone that just, you know, does security stuff, or a software engineer whether you're a back-end engineer, someone working in DevOps, SRE, or security, your skill as someone that can work in the cloud is transferable to building these metaverse experiences. And because at the end of the day, everything is on the cloud and service can go down, it's also important to know that people that work on call can, you know, help us as well. I'm open to answering any questions anyone can have or anyone has after this session. Find me. Thank you.